We're getting more fish today, which means we need to set up another patio pond for these guys. This is gonna be a no dig, no plug, no nothing type setup. Whether you have an apartment, you have a small backyard, doesn't matter. You can still get your fish fix in. It's kind of a windy day today, but the columns are still in place. We'll cross our fingers. The rice fish are really starting to breed like crazy over here. It definitely helped out putting a few more fish in. That's what we did last week. All the plants are doing really good. This grass is really starting to grow up. This is one of those ones that like sticks to you when you rub your hand through it. Need to start thinking about pulling some of these mobs. We'll let them get a little bit more filled up, but we need to get this pond set up, and everything's going to be set up in a way to where we can make this thing and then put the fish in basically immediately, same day, everything. I think I finally got my raptor all sealed up and water weatherproof, so we'll have to move him at some point too. Not gonna lie, we're kind of running out of space for these ponds, but what's so great about them is that they're little and that you can pick them up and you can move them. Like, hopefully they don't end up in a random corner like the Miyukis did, but I think you get the point. I mean the Yokozuras, not the Miyukis. The Miyukis are what we're getting today. Even though we're running out of room super fast back here, there's still more things I want to do, so this video is going to be sponsored by this bucket, okay? Not really, I guess it's sponsored by me. If your significant other is trying to get rid of your bucket situation, or at least trim it down, there's one surefire way that a bucket never gets thrown away. And that's when it has a ton of fish stickers all over it, okay? You might think I'm joking, but I've never had a bucket that had a bunch of stickers on it be brought up as a, hey, should we throw this one away? Even if it is a little kind of a disfigured bucket. So I'm going to attempt to do a little bit of fundraising here because there's one more thing that I want to do in this realm of things outside that's a little on the expensive side. And rather than say like, hey, help me out, go to my Patreon, become a member, I just think that's a kind of a dumb way to do it, right? You sign up and then 4 years later when your credit card changes, you realize that you've paid a person like $400 and you didn't mean to. Like, I'm not into that. What I am into is saving your buckets, okay? So if you want to get the bucket sticker pack that I'm putting together, it is going to be a great way to support the channel and to help me achieve my goal of getting this last thing. So here is a look at all the stickers. There's some big stickers that aren't really for sale on the website. There is some small stickers that you can put on there too. And then there's all of the normal 3-inch stickers. And it's just enough to completely cover a 5-gallon bucket and to never have that bucket be a question whether or not it should be thrown away or not. It will be the bucket that sticks with you for forever, literally until it splits completely in half. There will be links down below. And yeah, I really appreciate the support that you guys have given me. Regardless of this stuff, just watching the videos, it means a lot, and it has made this summer and the last, honestly, decade of my life really awesome. So thank you regardless, and let's get back to the video. And of course the fish showed up early, so we gotta work quick now. For this super simple build, we're gonna use this roughly, I think it's like 15-gallon planter pot. It's plastic. I've already drilled a hole kind of high up, sort of center with this lip, so that takes care of any overflowing that might happen. That's a common question that a lot of people ask about if it rains a lot in your summer times. And you can see it already has some substrate. So this is a mixture of stratum, contra soil, maybe even some ADA soil. I have no idea. It's an amalgamation of all of it. Not super important. We could just use sand. I decided to go with this because the interior of this is black and just keeping everything one solid color. I think with the fish that we're going to put in, it's going to look pretty good. Most fish, like lighter colored fish, do better with a blacker substrate. Darker fish do better with a lighter substrate, so you can just pick based on what fish you're going to use. But I think I want to add a little bit more to this. The plan, I think, is to have a decent amount of plants down in here planted, some aquarium plants. Well, let's grab the bag of stratum that I have, one hand. And again, sand just fine if that's all you got. You can totally use it. We have just sand in the pond next door, and we're growing dwarf sage just fine down here. It's a little bit shady. It's kind of hard to see with all the reflections, but those plants are doing great. No soil type substrate in here at all. Just a little bit of algae. Brought this over to feed the baby fry that will eventually hatch out of here, and I forgot I had a female that has already deposited her eggs today, so we got to put her back in the pond. Let's try and grab her one-handed. She's quick. All right, put her back in. This is the method that I've talked about several times. It's just how we maximize the amount of eggs. We just grab the females that are showing their eggs in the morning, put them in, and a few hours later, they're all done. They're all in the mops. Anyway, back to the build. So for this, once this is done, I mean, we're pretty close to almost done. I mean, this thing just needs water, a couple of little additives, right, to make everything super safe, and then a pond plant. So for this one, we're not going to get super fancy. We are going to put some aquarium plants down in that substrate, like I mentioned, but I think we're really only going to use one pond plant. It's a little windy out there, so I'm going to come in here next to all the white cloud minnow fry that you probably can't see, but we already got the plant situation taken care of. We went to the garden center yesterday, and I was hoping to get some of the plants that we've already gotten this season. Some of those really nice grasses that don't transform or do anything. They just grow. They don't get weird serrated leaves or get too big either. But unfortunately, they were pretty low on all the things that I wanted. They still had kind of a lot of pond plants, but they were all ones that just get giant. They're better suited for an actual proper big person pond. That was a little bit of a bummer, but we still managed to get a couple things that I think are gonna work out. So here are the plants that I picked up yesterday. 2 of these are gonna go make their home somewhere else, but this is the main plant that we're gonna be using for this pond. I think the elephant ear gets kind of big. What does it say here? Up to 5 feet tall, right? So that's why I say try and find stuff that stays in the 2 to 3 foot tops range. Something like one of these lilies is great and would also be a really good choice, but I wanted to do something different. If this thing gets huge, so be it. That might actually be kind of cool, but we're gonna pull this dude out and walk him over to the pond because this is an important part, setting the height of this plant. We don't want him to be too low or especially too high. So right now as it is, let's see if you can see this a little bit better. That is a little low. So we have the new starts. We want to try and get those as close to the top of the water as possible. I think this plant would be fine even if we filled it up to this height. I don't think it would die or anything, but we want to try and get it up to like right here, sort of where the water level is going to be consistently above the lip of this, just so fish don't get trapped in it. To do that, all we have to do is give it a little lift, right? And if I had 3 arms, I could do this all seamlessly and in the right spot, but I don't. So like right about there, I think just 1 brick, that might be where I want things to sit. I like to keep the water level about right here, sort of flush with this lip on ponds like this. So if we think about it that way, then we have about, I don't know, 2 inches of water above this. So if we're gone for a while and we get some evaporation, then we won't be in a situation where a fish could be trapped. I almost forgot about one of the most important parts of this whole process with the plant. Probably actually not the most important, but it's the most fun. We gotta stab this thing up. This is like this super cheap way of not having to buy a whole nother pot that has holes in the side for roots to come out of, so we can just do this and it kind of works. It's not going to be the best, but it's something that I've always done to my pond plants and it seems to work just okay. Now that the table is super dirty, should have put a towel down, we can put this thing back. At this point, we're pretty much just ready to start filling it up. So I'm gonna kick on the mist mode on the filler upper here and then try and get everything clamped on so we don't have to sit here for forever. Okay. One kind of nice thing about using sand and not a substrate like this is that this is gonna get a little cloudy. I mean, there's ways that you can make it less cloudy, but I don't have the patience for that right now. We gotta set this thing up quick. Our fish are here. So hopefully with this just kind of trickling it in with the mist hitting the sidewall, it's gonna end up looking just fine. But it is really nice to use sand for that exact reason. That's what we did over here on these ponds. And if you can remember, if you've been following along, I mean, right out the gate, they are super crystal clear. And then you just wait a couple weeks and the water starts to get a little discolored, right? No big deal. That's just what happens to ponds that aren't totally stocked up with plants. This guy over here that's super established, the water is a lot more clear. I know you can't see because of all this crazy reflection, but that's just how it goes with these outside things that get hit by the sun. So the best thing that I think you can do, especially if you're new to doing this, is put your pond somewhere that does not get hit with very much direct sunlight, if any at all. That's gonna help you with a lot of headaches throughout this journey. Trust me, you're gonna have enough sun to to warm the water up and to grow whatever plants you decide to use, most plants. I just think it's the move. When in doubt, go with a little less sun. I didn't think it was gonna get very warm today, but it's humid, a little muggy. And this is the new perfect placement for the Raptor. I don't think we're gonna move him at all. This is what I want him for. While this thing is filling up, it's the perfect time to dechlorinate the water. So we don't have the Fritz Pond guard. I ran out of it, so we're using just the regular guard. There's no difference between the two other than just the concentration. So this is a little bit less concentrated. We have to add a little bit more to the volume of water to achieve the same goal, but it should work just fine. Get rid of the chlorine, the chloramines, and also help with the fish's slime coat. It's what we call a win-win-win. Boom. And then you know me, I'm a sucker for the bacteria, because why not? It can only help. It brings me back kind of to my days when I did my thesis way back when, those oh so wonderful days of being in school for forever. But yeah, it's something that I always do. So we just take this and squirt in probably way more than we need to, because it can't hurt anything. It's just going to help to get the cycle going, help to eliminate the chances of nitrite building up. I find that it's like the best at doing that. Ammonia and other things like aren't going to be super relevant in this with this plant growing, and the fact that, you know, it's something that has been in a pond somewhere, so it has a bunch of beneficial microbes on it, not just nitrifiers. This is kind of overkill, as I've said every single time that we do this, but it's something that I still do because I figure why not? It can only help. Stay vigilant, because even the garden center has duckweed, all right? We got these other two plants prepped. I did the big knife cutting thing. As you can see, there's, I don't know, that's probably still alive. What am I kidding? Duckweed is always alive, even when it's dead. I think we'll risk it though. I think there's already some stuff in the pond where we're gonna put this anyway. Ow. It's pretty overcast today, but the last couple of days have been so hot, I had to move the barbecue over here to provide a little bit of shade for the bootleg rainbow shiners. Let me slide this out of the way. I did finally get some good footage of the males that are colored up, or at least the ones that I think are the males that are displaying some of that blue color. So I'll show you guys that now. Pretty happy with that. Like the fry that we got from these fish, I'm thinking that they might be good to really hang on to. I was gonna do that anyway, but now I'm thinking that we might need to prioritize getting some more of these guys. So, I don't know. I just wanted to start with putting some pond plants in here. We stole a couple of the plants that were in here originally for the ponds over there. We're just gonna replace it here, try to at least one-handed. They're kind of heavy, man. This is some star grass. It's a pretty small plant. Doesn't get super big. We're gonna have to move our panel over here a little bit. One thing about these is that they obviously discolor the water a little bit. This clay is something that you can't move around a lot, but that's okay. And then for the other side, we got this big old iris, which these plants do super well. It's what's in this pond next door. It survived being completely frozen. It already gave off its flowers this year, but you never know. Maybe it'll throw some more, maybe it won't, but regardless, it just looks good, and this is a good height for a size of pond like this, I think. All right, it's fish time. Let's get into these. So my buddy Anthony hooked me up with these fish. He's a hobbyist from South Florida. He owns Daku Aquatics. We got the stamp on the box. Love that, just kind of like how I do. Yeah, he's got these blue Miyukis, or at least I think they're blue. Maybe they're just Miyukis. We'll have to see. They're just a really cool rice fish species, subspecies that I don't have, a color variant, however you want to think of it. And I thought, like, why not? I mean, we might as well just get as many as we can. So he was nice enough to send me some of these. He has social media, Instagram, TikTok, I'm pretty sure, all that stuff, where he shows off how he keeps these fish outside year-round. There's a bunch more to say about it, but we should open these up. Where's my knife? It's still a little muddy, but it will work. This thing's getting dull. Let's see what these South Floridian fish look like. Got a little coupon card in here. Don't screenshot that and use the 5% off. Got some stickers, Daku Aquatics, a card, and we have an acclimation guide and procedure. I think that that's always something that you want to see. Most places that you buy fish from online these days provide something like this, but one thing that I do really like is that he highlights his pH and also his hardness. So it's looking like he keeps these fish in soft water, which is perfect for me. You know, I have soft water too. Just a quick thing about rice fish. It's actually titled Rice Fish 101. That's really cool. So He gives you all the instructions. Don't float the bag closed. Open them up, put the fish in. I'm assuming that's what he's gonna say. And he even says, I breed them outside year round and the water temp ranges from 50 to 94 degrees Fahrenheit. So, I mean, that's crazy. He says what he feeds them. He's got some other tips on here. This is great. Again, this is the level that you get from a really dedicated hobbyist, something that you don't always get from more of like a commercial operation that sells fish. We're on kind of the kick of getting really good fish from hobbyists these days. I like to support my dudes. So let's open this up. I'm just gonna pull this whole bag out. That might be easier. We got bags inside of bags here. I don't wanna accidentally rip the wrong one, but I have a feeling the fish are in a stronger bag. So got a cushion, no need for any kind of cooling apparatuses. What am I looking at? The opposite of a heat pack, a cool pack. My brain. We did get some plants, so I kind of pinged him and said, hey, we might need some stuff to put on the bottom of our pond. I don't know exactly what he sent me though. There's not just fish on DakuAquatics.com. We'll put links down to everything, but he also sells a bunch of live plants, both free like this, potted as well. I've seen that on his Instagram. But he is gonna specialize in rams. That's like his big thing. I think that's the fish that he really started on. So if you're looking for some really cool rams, definitely check him out. But also plants and probably rice fish, because I know he's got the rice fish bug just like I do. So this is cool, just a couple plants that we can use in our pond here once we get our fish all situated. So we have the blue Miyukis. Oh, those dudes are cool. I think he sent me like 10 of them, like 10. So we got a few in each bag. There's actually some more plants, some mixed boosts. I think that's another one of the things that I always see on his Instagram is just like tons of Bucephalandra, so that's cool. We'll probably put these inside in a tank. But yeah, that's, you can't really see these fish from here. They're gonna look better in the pond anyway, so let's take them outside. And again, we don't want to float the breather bags because then the fish won't be able to breathe that well. We're going to hit these with the temperature gun. We're looking at 73-ish, close. Up here in the pond, we're looking at 70. So in my opinion, that's probably close enough. Oh no, we dipped down to 69. I'm going to plant these dwarf sage plants real quick though. Can I do it one-handed? I think I can. I just love using dwarf sage in these ponds. I think it, besides the fact that it does really well kind of no matter what, I think that it's just a really cool look to look down into a pond and just see a bunch of grass. And with not a ton of other things on this pond, it should get a decent amount of light and grow pretty quickly. That's one of the issues that we kind of have been having over in this one, is that it doesn't get a ton of light and there's just a bunch of things competing for it over there. It kind of almost chokes out the dwarf sage, which you'd think wouldn't be able to happen, but I don't know. I'm also kind of just making stuff up as to why it isn't completely everywhere by now. But yeah, I think this will be a good little touch. I'm fully aware that you probably can't see any of this because it's dark in this pond. Everything's black and the reflection's a little crazy, but you know, it's a thing you gotta be patient for. One day it'll look awesome. All right, and because we know our water parameters are very close, our temperatures are very close, again, not gonna float them, we're just gonna rip them open and dump them in. And I'm gonna put Daku's water in this pond. Kind of like what I did with the Medaka lair fish when we were in a hurry last time. Daku's got an excellent system. I love his setup. That doesn't mean it's completely free from issues, but because this is a brand new setup, there's nothing about this water that is very biologically active other than the starter that we just threw in it in the pond plant. I'm not worried about introducing any kind of weird diseases. We don't have any fish in this pond already, so it's not a huge deal, but it is breaking one of the cardinal rules of fish keeping. I got the wind cover back on. Hopefully that helps a little bit, but I guess we don't need that part for this part anyway. Oh my gosh, those are very, very bright. Okay, I'm glad we went with the all black pond because those things are showing up. Oh, these are so cool. Oh man, you gotta check this out. I mean, even with the glare, You can still see them. Like they're that bright. So almost a really like bright silver fish. Like I said, they call these the blue Miyuki. Let's get a zoom in on these guys. Just see them right through the glare. That's crazy. I guess they are kind of blue. They're blue-ish. Where'd that guy go? He's up at the top. So in real life, that fish is much brighter than the way the camera is making the reflection kind of mess with it. But I mean, you can see them all the way down at the bottom. This pond is still cloudy from the pond plant, from the bacteria that we added to it, from the substrate. So once this thing clears up, I mean, these fish, they're going to look so awesome. They already do look awesome. Just bright and blue silver-ish-y kind of. The Miyukis, the blue Miyukis, awesome fish. This might be some rice fish blasphemy, I don't know, but I almost like those blue Miyukis more than the pearl white galaxies. Like, I mean, I have a special place in my heart with these fish because they were my first one. But I don't know, if you're looking for a fish that is white, I think the blue Miyuki might be, I mean, it's kind of white. It's definitely not the same, it's different, okay? These guys are cool. They have all white bodies, they have blue eyes. I'm not sure what color the eyes are on the Miyukis. I haven't inspected them yet. I'm still just in awe of how like shiny they are. But if you're looking to do an all dark, like an all black setup like this, I think these might be the fish you want to go with. I mean, it just depends, right? Like whatever you're into, but these fish are extremely easy to see. One of the easiest fish to see ever. You can imagine if we put some of the midnight black Madakas in this pond, you wouldn't be able to see them at all, right? And it's just a color thing. So any kind of white or really light colored fish would look good in a setup like this, but I think these blue Miyukis, they really shine in it. Like literally, no pun intended, but yeah, pun intended. We might need to get one of the fancy column things in that pond too. I wasn't trying to do this to every single one of them, but at least that way we could see the side profile of the fish like we can all these other ones. And oops, wrong thing. I just think that this is, I don't know, it's kind of goofy, but it looks cool, right? I don't know. I think it's fun, and I think those fish would look pretty sweet in it. Next day alert, all the fish are doing really, really good. You can actually really see the bottom here. The water's super clear. It took a little bit of time, but the Miyukis, oh my gosh, these fish are so cool. Guys, if you want to get some of these, obviously go check out Aquatics. If you need more proof, like check out his Instagram and see all the other cool stuff that he sells. He does more fish than just the rams and the rice fish. I couldn't include everything in that little blurb, but you know, these guys are so cool. Another windy day. Our elephant ear plant is blowing all over the place, but I'm thinking this is going to be a good spot for the pond. It's right next to this dude, and it gets an average amount of light, probably 6 or 7 hours of sunlight. I mean more than that, but direct sunlight, maybe a few hours less than that. Sometimes I'm bad at calculating exactly how much. I know the zones in my backyard that are good for ponds and areas that might not be so good. This is kind of like in between spot. Like it's gonna heat up on hot days, but the rice fish can take it. We don't need to worry about putting aeration in a pond like this. You could if you wanted to. Certainly if it's, you know that the water's going to get up into the mid-90s on a consistent basis. If you want to be able to sleep a little bit better at night, you can do that. But for me, I think I'm just going to leave it super el natural like this. These fish should be fine. And that's just one of the many traits that make rice fish so great for these small outdoor ponds. Super resistant to the cold, so you can keep them out in most climates all year round. Not everywhere, but as long as the whole thing isn't going to completely freeze, most of your fish should be fine and survive. And that's kind of the way they do it in Japan, and that's why the Japanese fish in particular have such good genetics, or at least the ones that we don't have really good access to. And because of how these fish evolve, they're also super resistant to low oxygen in the water. So that's why we don't need an air stone. Even if the water gets up into the low 90s, these fish are going to be just fine. As with all the rice fish that we have in the collection we've been building, we want to breed these fish. They're a little young, but they still should be producing eggs. Most of them, I think, are at a point where they could. I think one fish might be a little small. Don't know if it's a male or a female, but this should be a pond that produces for us. So we need to make some really cool mops for these guys. And I think we have enough colors of pool noodles to make a really cool one for them. I think they deserve that. But first, I gotta give you the good news about the rainbow shiners in the fish room. I was in here earlier this morning and I think they might still be doing it. Yeah, they're still pretty colored up. The males are really showing up and they've been doing this consistently now for the last week or so. But I've been checking, trying to see if there's any eggs. I have to use this flashlight. It's kind of tough using this old school method, right? Of the egg basket collector, but there's no way you can see in here. I can barely see it, but there are eggs. Confirmed, I have seen eggs. They're clear, they're not yellowy. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. To be honest, I don't even know really how clear they are because I can't see them very well, but there are eggs in there. It's tough to see because there's so much like waste and stuff. I've been a little bit more like easy on the food. I've been feeding a little bit less, just more times a day. So I think the fish are getting just as much. You can see that male super colored up in the back. But yeah, these fish are, I think, really happy. And if they are breeding, which I think pretty much confirmed they are, we're doing something right. So that makes me feel really good. I was getting worried about these fish. Even though they were displaying everything, I didn't know because this is the first time doing it, right? So I think I'm gonna wait another day, maybe two, and then I'm gonna pull this basket out and then swap it out with a new basket for the bottom piece. We're gonna keep the same rocks and everything so they're still familiar with it. And we'll just put that basket on the side. Maybe we'll move this tank, we'll put some more water in it, maybe throw an air stone in and just monitor those eggs. Hopefully at that point we can get a better look at them because they're down there, I promise. Pretty stoked on that. I still think we are gonna move a few of these fish outside. I gotta go back to Lowe's and get another one of those same wooden ponds, put a liner back in it, and do kind of the same thing that we did with the bootleg rainbow shiners, which are also finally showing off some colors. So, all is well in rainbow shiner world, as well as rice fish world. I'm happy with where things are, with where we are in the summer, but this happens every year. You look up and it's already the end of August. So we're gonna try and do as much as we can and get as many fish as we can for the winter so that we have a ton of fish next year. I know it's kind of tough when you are planning that far out and you gotta delay some gratification, but it's just so worth it for me. I'm having so much fun this season. But what color pool noodle should we use for our Miyukis, our blue Miyukis? I would use blue, but I feel like I kind of have a lot of blue, or at least I'm already using blue for the black Midnight Madakas, so we can't use that. Or we could switch it up and maybe use a random color for the top and then just use the blue scouring pad. I don't know. And just like that, we're all set. So super simple pond, not a lot more to do. We just have to sit back and wait and hope these fish start to produce some eggs. I haven't noticed any of the females having any eggs on them, or at least the last few days that they've been out here. So we'll just give it a little bit more time. Sometimes you need to be a little patient, especially when you just move fish. So that's really it. That is the super simple pond build that anybody can do, very much on a budget. I don't think total this probably cost me less than $100, not including the fish, of course. That's going to depend on how many you get, but everything about this pond is just very set it and forget it, and it's going to be safe. It's still going to be something that you don't really need to worry about all too much. Just don't put it in too much sunlight, and the only thing you're going to have to deal with is probably some algae if you don't put enough plants in it. So that is the main concern with this thing. It's going to take the dwarf sage a little while to really start to fill in and grow and help to reduce those issues, but it's still not an impossibility. And you know, I also broke down and installed a little column on this guy too, because why not? So for this one, because I didn't have any plant to really lean this column up against, you can see where I tried to do that and I got the pond all muddy. This one I decided to go with the little bamboo stick trick. Thank you, multiple people in the comments, for suggesting this. This method looks like it works pretty well. The fish will definitely take a little bit of time before they start exploring this, but they have ample room to go in and out of this thing on both sides of the column this time, so I don't know. I think it's just a fun little thing that you can add on to a pond like this. And then also, I'm going to add this tonight and clip the footage in, so you're seeing it right now, but you can put a little light on your pond, one that doesn't have to be plugged in. I like to use these little book reading lights. You just charge them up with USB, and then they just run for like 5 or 6 hours, which is perfect. You come out in the evening, click it on for 30 minutes at a time or whatever, and it's gonna last pretty much all week for you. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to accomplish with this week's video. Just set up that super simple pond, get those cool rice fish in there. If you're thinking about doing a patio pond and you haven't done it yet, don't worry, it's not too late in the summer. That might depend on where you live, of course, but you certainly can set ones up in July even. Like I'm still gonna set up another one here probably next week or the week after. Don't forget to check out the bucket sticker pack if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.